Hey everybody, it's Congressman Mark Green and we're back, Whiteboard Wednesday. Today we're going to talk about this whole idea. Everybody, all the experts are out there saying that if Trump institutes tariffs, it's going to cause massive inflation. Well, let's talk a little bit first about the situation that Trump is inheriting from Biden in the economy. Massive government spending, the Green New Deal, the Inflation Reduction Act, all of these trillion-dollar bills have put money into the economy without an increase in the supply of goods. That led to inflation. We saw it. It was massive. Increased regulations, the cost of doing business, massive inflation. Well, in response, the Fed increased the interest rates at the fastest in the history of the country. I mean, it just was incredible. And that stressed the banks because they were making loans at 2.5% for 30 years. Now they got to pay 4.5%, 5% for their money for new loans. Net interest margin was falling. That put stress on the banks. And when SVIB failed, and there were other banks that failed too, but when SVIB failed, the Fed offered a program, 20% of the banks took it. You can Google it. There are tons of banks that are on the chopping block right now because of this rapid increase. But something else happened too, some other things. First off, Biden put those sanctions on Russia. You can debate sanctions all day long, but what it caused the BRICS to do is say, we're dumping the dollar. And there has been a massive campaign by China and other BRICS countries. Brazil's not doing trade transactions in the dollar with China. So these BRICS countries dumping the dollar has put a massive decrease in the demand on the US dollar. Also, Enbridge, this is China's transaction system to compete with the SWIFT. Well, if you're doing transactions in the yuan, you don't need to have dollars. So it's again decreasing the demand for the US dollar. Petro yuan now. It used to be the petro dollar. Biden allowed it to expire. France has even done a deal in oil with Saudi Arabia in the yuan. So again, this massive decrease in the demand for the dollar has led to a decreased falling dollar. It's on a cliff. It could go a lot worse. If we lose reserve status, we'll be buying goods from other countries with a low value dollar. And guess what? That means if we consume anything from overseas, it's going to cause massive inflation. That's where we are now in this precarious situation. Well, how do you reel in, this notion that tariffs are going to cause inflation? Well, yes, it will increase the cost of those goods, but how do you reel in the BRICS? Because they're already causing inflation. Well, how about tariffs? With tariffs, you'll increase the demand for domestic products, okay? Maybe you don't buy a foreign-made car. Well, you're not paying inflationary prices caused by tariffs if you buy an American car. But it'll increase the demand for domestic. What does that do? Create jobs, fuel the economy, onshoring and nearshoring, friendshoring. We bring manufacturing to countries that aren't charging us exorbitant, aren't dumping the US dollar, aren't trying to economically destroy the United States. And if we subsidize through tax credits, friends, our own businesses to move to the United States and manufacture in the United States, we not only don't have tariffs causing inflation, we decrease the supply chain, the cost, the increased opportunity, jobs in America, and in Latin America and in the Caribbean, and then we decrease migration, which, by the way, go back and look at it. We did a study last year, $400 billion is the cost of the Southwest border debacle. And if we stop de-dollarization, if we stop these BRICS from dumping the dollar, devaluing the dollar, causing inflation, we'll actually decrease inflation, all of these things. It's a catch-22, I get it. But Donald Trump's thinking is right. We have to do something to stop the de-dollarization. Because if we don't, we'll be a third world country too.